the Force. The day your precious alliance dies, your rebellion will die just as surely. I will make you pay for
What's up, guys? This is Lucky. Welcome back. And I'm so glad they got the Emperor's Laugh in this game. That's fantastic. And so is this, like, boom! So, we got Battlefront, more Battlefront, and I got more videos in the hopper. And I am having so much fun. And today, these clips, Walker Assault only. And we're going to take a look at Walker Assault on the 4 planets, so you can take a look, get a look at the different environments, and see all the different environments that there are. So you have the 4 planets, which are Tatooine, Endor, Sollust, and Hoth, and they're wildly different environments. And pretty soon we'll get a free one, basically Jakku, which would be the 5th planet. And we're gonna talk maps. We're gonna talk about maps and how many maps are enough. Are there enough maps in Battlefront? You know, what's the deal with that? Because there's a lot of frack and talk and trolling and internet hatred towards Battlefront for the lack of content, quote unquote, and there not being enough maps at launch and at release. And so I just kind of want to talk in general about, you know, how many is enough maps? What other games do? You know, what's a fair comparison? Because this is pretty much a multiplayer only game. There's no single player campaign at all. There's a little tiny bit of single player content, but it's pretty much just like, you know, offline training for when you get bored and you want to like brush up on your skills and stuff. But it's really a multiplayer only game. I mean, that's what it is. And that's pretty much what it's been advertised and what EA has said was in it. So I want to take a look about that. Now I say 4 planets, really 5, with the free DLC that comes out today, which I'm super stoked about to get a peek at what happened after Return of the Jedi for the first time in a video game. And but there's a difference between the number of planets and the number of maps, and that's kind of where there seems to be a little bit of confusion and disagreement. And you know, let's see. So in actuality, Battlefront has 13 maps at launch, and they'll add 2 more within 3 weeks of launch that are free to everybody. If you pre-order them, you get it a week early if you pre-order the game, but only a week. Everybody gets it. So altogether, really 15 maps is what we're talking about. 5 planets. 5 different environments. Which actually seems pretty good. But like I said, it is multiplayer only. So let's just, real fast, I pulled some numbers, and I went back, and I was like, well, what do other games do to get us a fair comparison? So let's look at other first-person shooters. Go back to the original Black Ops. 13 maps at launch, and 4 game modes. I think 4, including zombies. Black Ops 3. It launched with 13 maps and then has 11 game modes at launch. That's what it launched with. So over the course of Black Ops 1 to the course of many Call of Duties to Black Ops 3 now, they've added more game modes, same number of maps, but they've added layers of complexity and more features and stuff as the franchise goes on, as the franchise evolves, so to speak. Battlefield 4. 10 maps, 7 multiplayer modes. 10 maps, 7 multiplayer modes. Battlefront, 13 maps, and 9 multiplayer modes. Destiny, another first-person shooter. Crucible had 10 maps, 1 of which, or 2 of which, were PlayStation exclusively, and 6 modes, of which really only 4 are available because they kind of rotated some of those modes in. Since then, for the $80, if you spent all $80 on all the extra DLC content so far. You have gotten another 4 other modes, and like half a dozen more maps. You know, you're chucking out, which I did. I chucked out that kind of money. Want to talk about short on content? Bungie compared, oh my gosh, like Battlefront is like a plethora of content compared to Bungie, but that's a whole different topic. And you know, again, this is just my opinion, because content, like the value, people talk about not worth the $60 price tag. I'm seeing that being thrown out a lot. But worth the $60 means a lot to different people, and it's the quality. Like, how much fun do you have versus, you know, whatever, you know? Like, to me, this game is worth way more than that. I'm a Star Wars fan. I fucking adore it. And just in general, I find it a lot of fun. Like, even if I wasn't a Star Wars fan, I've actually had a lot of fun, like, actual gameplay-wise. Whereas other people may not value it that same way, and that's okay. But just know that, you know, value is a matter of perception and opinion. And so is price. Price's fundamental component is your value, and where your value creates demand, where that supply meets that. That's almost, you know, so price inherently also has a factor of perceived opinion, although it's collected perceived opinion. So, compared to other first-person shooters, Battlefront's got a pretty fair, comparable number. Now, the thing is, it doesn't have single-player. So, there's 2 games, Evolve, and I should have got Titanfall, but Evolve had 12 maps at launch and 5 game modes. Only 5 game modes. And it's fair enough, Evolve has added, cruising on top of that ad. Just cruising along, enjoying the view. Fucking ruined my party, bro. So, Evolve had 12 maps, and they have added free maps. So their model is they keep adding maps for free, but they're selling you character packs and monster packs for $15 each. So they've done that at least 3 times, 30, so about $90 worth of stuff. Stay competitive in that game. Although you could stick with the base game, but nonetheless, really not single player content. Although you can play against AI and Evolve on all those maps. You can go in as a monster and just play against AI, and it's tough. The AI is actually pretty intelligent. Like, I feel like I got my money's worth out of Evolve. I felt like that was fair value. I don't feel cheated in the slightest bit. Other people disagreed. It didn't sell as well. Now here's one the internet's gonna freak out about. The Overwatch. Blizzard's new shooter title. Game looks fucking amazing. It looks boss as hell. And you know what it's gonna launch with? It's gonna launch with $60 for $60 on console, 3 game modes, and 8 maps. That's what you get. 8 maps. 8 maps and 3 game modes for $60. Now, to be fair to Overwatch, it's got 21 characters, and every single one of those characters has unique skill sets and weapons and plays differently. So that's really where your variety comes in. You know what I'm saying? And it's going to be multiplayer only. No campaign, guys. So what's the internet going to say when that happens? I'm going to flip the fuck out. Or who knows, they may give it a free pass because it's Blizzard and not EA. Who knows? Because there seems to be like double standards going on. Because it seems to me like Battlefront has the similar number of maps. Now I want to talk about 2 other games. Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which had an awesome single player, and Last of Us, which had awesome single player. And Game of the Year single player content. And each one of them had multiplayer. And they're not first-person shooters, but you know, I think it's fair to talk about other multiplayers. Black Flag, 12 maps, 8 game modes. It was the 4th iteration of their multiplayer right before they discontinued it. Pretty much this kind of the same, really, right? Last of Us Factions multiplayer, obviously probably the most underrated multiplayer in like the last 5 years. Fucking awesome multiplayer, absolutely fucking awesome. Anybody who's subbed to my channel knows I love that fucking game, and I have friends. I played it for a year solid, and I have friends who are still playing it 2 years later, every day. So, but 7 maps, 3 game modes. 7 maps and 3 game modes, and now they've added DLC, but that was enough to build a massive multiplayer community that has now lasted 2 years. 2 years! 2 years, and that's all it launched with. Now, I almost think having less game modes is kind of smart, because you're funneling all your players into these few game modes that you've gotten right. And I almost think that having more game modes is a mistake on DICE's part. Part of me does. The other part of me is like, it's a new franchise, and I think they want to try to see what works. Like, what do people like? What do people not like? What works and doesn't work? And I think that's why they have 9 game modes. Vader. Oh. So I think they're trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And some modes just don't work. I think, though, there's 6 game modes that really are fun as hell. There are 2 big game modes, Walker Assault and Supremacy. Then it had Fighter Squadron, Cargo, Blast, which is basically just the Deathmatch, and Drop Zone. All 6 of those games, I'm just hopping between those game modes, like, all the time. And it's across 13, like, Blast is across, well, here, hang on, before I get ahead of myself. All those are fun to me. Now, the other ones, Hero Hunt and Droid Run, are very luck-based, and they're just not working. And Heroes versus Villains, I mean, I think some people may like it. I'm just not crazy about it. You know, that's just me. I think some people may like it. I just don't think, I think that game mode needs some love. One, it needs to be all Heroes versus Villains, but that's an entirely separate deal altogether. So, that's just kind of my thoughts on the subject. But still, that's at least 6. And they're good game modes. Like, they're fun, and they all have different tactics, and they use different team stuff. I mean, anybody who says that they're not, now Walker Assault has some balance issues, and that's just the thing, and this is probably a topic for another thing. There are issues with this game. There are actual problems, and I will probably talk about that in another video. But they're not being talked about by the people hating on it, and these YouTubers who are basically creating clickbait videos, and a lot of reviewers. Like, very few people I've seen have actually honed in on the actual issues. See, people seem to be focusing in on this, on Season Pass, and the fact that there's no single player. You know, no single player campaign is advertised. If you have to have single player, don't buy the fucking game. Use Google. Find out what you're buying. This thing has 13 maps, 9 game modes, multiplayer only. If that's enough for you, get it. Well, really 15 maps. But here, let's get into the crux. And here's the crux of the problem. This is the crux of the problem, is that the big game modes, there's only 4, soon to be 5 planets. Which really means for your big game modes, there really are only 4 maps. And some of your other modes, there's only 4 maps, 1 per planet. Soon to be 5. And that is the crux of the issue. And there really is a deficit there. Like, holistically, if you look at the total EA's got, it's good. The problem is that per mode, there's really only like 4 or 5. And so for the way for you to get your enjoyment is you really have to roll through the different modes and play the different modes. But, you know, that's just my thought. Anyways, guys, what do you think? How many maps are enough? Can a multiplayer only game survive in today's market? This is Lucky signing out. Peace.
Walker down.